This podcast is a proud representative of The Wellness Company. Go to twc.health/alternate take for all your wellness needs and type in the promo code alternate take, one word, for 10% off. You guys, in today's world, health has never been more important. In fact, it's one of the coolest subjects we've been able to touch on here at Alternate Take, and we've gotten some amazing guests to have discussions with, including Dr. Peter McCullough, who you all know as probably the most famous doctor in the world ever since his episodes on Joe Rogan. He is the chief scientific officer of the Wellness Company, and nothing goes through this whole company without his knowledge. If it's certified by Dr. Peter McCullough, it's certified by us. The Wellness Company is unequivocally and unapologetically standing up for medical freedom and the right to affordable health care. This company has always put the patient first. If you go on their website at twc.health, you'll see all natural products and everything that's going to make you a better human being. Guys, let's get healthy before we even get to the hospital, before we get serious problems. This is the place you got to go. Go to the website, twc.health/alternate take, promo code alternate take, one word, for 10% off, and thank us later. Get healthy, guys. Your family's dependent on you. What up, everybody? Sorry, fucking tongue-tied. Too much of this whiskey. What up, everybody? This is Alternate Take, and we are back with another guest, man. We brought you the amazing Ethan Tucker. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's a great pleasure to have you, man. You've been one of the guests I've been trying to get on the show for a while, man, because that's one of the things I love to talk about, man. It's just music, and I have a bunch of guests for a bunch of different genres and whatnot, but music's just like my first love out of fucking anything. So it's exciting, man. You're a great artist, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, dude. Tell everyone a little bit about your humble beginnings, man. Where you started, how you got into the music profession, where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's well, I grew up. I'm one of 8 kids, with like a blended family. So my mom had 5 kids and my dad had 5 kids when they met, and then, or not 5, sorry, each had 3 when they met, and then they had two more together. And so, yeah, I grew up in a big family, and there was always like musical instruments around. Like we always had a piano. My mom always had a guitar. My older siblings would always be playing music, like listening to it. I have a couple siblings that are amazing piano players, and but there was always music going on in the house. My some of my brothers were into like hip hop and rap, and one brother was into like metal and like Metallica and also like grunge and stuff like that. And then my sisters were into like 90s like chick rock and like Lisa Loeb and Cranberries and stuff like that. And my mom was into all kinds of folk music and the Beatles, and my dad like Led Zeppelin. So it's just like this whole mix, and then of just music that was always bombarding my young brain as a child, and then my siblings were playing classical music, and I would go try to touch the piano keyboard, when they were playing, and they would always be like, "Get out of here, leave." And I was always, just play on the keyboards. Like I remember being like a little kid and just like, I would like make noise with the low end keys, doom, 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 and it'd be like the bad guy. And then the high end keys would be like the good guy. And I'd like tell a little story of like what was going on, not even really playing music, but just telling the sound. Like that was kind of how I got, so I was just always around music. It wasn't something I ever thought about.
Yeah. It's like exciting for me to hear like stories like that, because I've heard stories where people are not around it at all. Like, I've been playing music my whole life. I was around it in the sense of like my parents played a lot of it. They were knowledgeable a lot about it, but none of them played an instrument and had any interest either. Like there was any like push to me to play instruments. It was just like something me and my brother were like, let's just try to play fucking guitar. And then you just kind of go down a rabbit hole. I remember like bringing up like bands to like my dad and like and like surprised that he knew him. He's like he was like offended, like I don't fucking know Iron Maiden. Are you high? Like,
Right.
But like to me, he showed me the classics. He showed me like AC/DC and and hip hop, he was like, really big into Tupac and Biggie
Right.
and stuff. And obviously, like, I came from a Mexican house, so like I heard a lot of like, like Vicente Fernandez, and then even like the modern, like, not necessarily Mexican music, but like Maná, great music like that. So I mean, I kind of got the basics, and I just once I got the guitar, everything went out the window, man. I went super, just so deep into every genre you can think of, man. And but again, that's one of those things where I wasn't necessarily around people playing instruments like you were. And I think it's probably better if you are people around playing instruments. It probably sets the bar a little higher. You probably like want to be better than your siblings at the instruments or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was so much younger, I think, that I didn't get the competition aspect as much because I just wanted to play with the instruments. Because my oldest brother is like 13 years older than me, and the next one closest in age up is like 8 years older than me. So it was like a whole different. I was in a there, I was in a different zone. I was the baby. They were like, they were like in school, middle school and stuff when I was
Yeah.
little in high
I think
school.
that's cool though, because like also like I see a lot of families where the baby tends to be the most free spirited. They tend to be the ones that just do like the most like not really care type of things in the world, which you need that spirit. You need that um I think that personality to want to be a musician because there's not much guarantee in it, obviously. And to be able to be like, that's still what I want to do for a living. Like you definitely need to be a free spirit. You definitely need to and for some reason the youngest kid in the family happens to be that, like most of the time. It's very crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I feel like my parents were so tired of raising kids by the time I came around that I just kind of was able to do whatever I wanted compared to what the older ones, because the older one, my older brothers and sisters, like, I cannot believe that mom let you get away with that. Or, I don't know.
I'm more charming than you. Get over it, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. So what was the first instrument you played?
Um, well, like I said, I always was messing around with the piano. We always had a piano. And then, guitar was the first instrument that I really gravitated towards that I really like. Um, my mom always had this old guitar, and I remember I would always just mess around with it. I remember like I would just take like the bread, the thing that you keep the loaf of bread,
Yeah.
the little plastic thing,
Yeah.
and I would use that as a pick, and I would use like a quarter as a pick or something, and I was just fascinated with that. And then I would just mess around with that. And then I remember when I was like 8 years old, my mom rented the movie Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And when she rented Blues Brothers, um, she didn't let me watch rated R movies. I grew up in a super religious household, and like rated R movies was like no, no. And she didn't know the first Blues Brothers movie was rated R, and I think I watched that thing about 20 times before she caught on. I was hooked, and I just remember watching it like I was 8 years old, and I was like, that is what I want to do. Like I want to do that. And I would grab her guitar and I would just play it, just make noise with it. And I think she really liked that I played it, because her brothers and sisters and her mom, like my mom's side of the family, they all grew up doing music. My great granddad used to make violins and fiddles, and
Wow.
so like that side of my family is very musical. And so I think she was excited that I loved it. And so I just would play it all the time. And finally one day she said, if you promise me that you'll learn how to play this, I'll give it to you. It'll be yours. So I said, I promise. I remember I was like crying. I was like, really? But it was, I remember that moment, and I did. I said, I promise I will learn how to play this. And I made true on that promise.
Hell yeah, you did, man. Fucking tremendously. What were the bands you first and artists that you were first like influenced by that were your favorite when you were growing up?
Um, so when I was little, like I said, there was so much music around. The first song I remember hearing, like that I remember hearing, was Pearl Jam, Better Man. And I just remember thinking that it said Butterman. And I remember in my head I had this image of the whole town looking for the Butterman, like can't find the Butterman. So I just imagined like this guy driving a butter truck, and the whole town was out of butter, and they're looking for the guy who sold butter. But yeah, so I remember that, and then but I had this Little Richard tape when I was little, and it was Little Richard singing kid songs. So like it had like and not all of them I guess were kid songs, but it was a record that was a kid's album. And so like I remember he had this like keep on knocking but you can't come in. Keep on knocking but you can't come in. And so I remember I listened to that tape so much. It was this little purple cassette. And I listened to that cassette so much that either the tape player ate the tape or my siblings sabotaged it.
Probably the second choice.
And so I
Sure.
remember that. But when I fell in love, I remember my mom used to always wake us up for church on the weekends with music, and instead of just like like during the week for school, it was like lights on, blankets off, get up, go to school. But
Yeah.
on the weekends, she would just like start cooking bacon or something, and then she'd turn on like um some sort of music. And I just remember she used to play this Taj Mahal album. Um, and I just remember I just fell in love with it and I would listen to it all the time. And I'd be like, hey, can I borrow this? And when my oldest sister, she was like, I'll buy you any CD you want. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. And
Damn.
I was like, I want Taj Mahal, and she bought me a Taj Mahal CD. And I just fell in love with Taj Mahal music and the blues and BB King. I saw BB King on the Blues Brothers movie, the second one, and I was so infatuated with BB King. And blues was what really drove me into music. I just loved. I was like this little 8-year-old kid that just wanted so bad to be a blues man. I would wear my grandpa's old fedora and I would mess around with the harmonica and just pretend to play guitar solos. And I'd put on that Taj Mahal record, or I'd put on BB King, and I would just pretend I was playing those songs for hours, like hours and hours and hours. I would just sit and pretend I was playing.
Damn, dude. That's amazing, dude. I have so many similar fucking like experiences. I feel like I blues I got into a little bit later because I remember not too late. I mean, for me in my musical head, like, but looking back, it wasn't late at all. It was like only like 11.
Yeah.
But my neighbors, my brother played guitar. He was pretty good. And then my neighbor played guitar as well. And like we went over to his house and we were watching. He put on Crossroads with Ralph Macchio. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but for those who haven't, it's basically a movie about a young Ralph Macchio who goes to Juilliard for guitar for classical music, but his pure love is blues. And his whole mission is to try to find out this lost Robert Johnson record or song. And he just going all the way down to the fucking Mississippi Delta to try to figure it out. And it's like a whole kind of like road trip, but music style.
Wow.
And the whole movie is just it's like there's Steve Vai comes in it and he's soloing and like you watch the whole movie and you fall in love with the blues like and not just the music but also just like the style of a blues man like there's
Yeah.
parts where he gets broken up with and he just starts playing his guitar all sing.
Yeah.
And I was
Absolutely.
like I love that man. I was already that guy and I was 11.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I that was me. I that was what Blues Brothers did for me. I just love that whole lifestyle. The idea of piling all these guys into the car and running from the cops and making it gig to gig to gig to make your money. I was like, dude, I want to travel around with my friends and go gig to gig to make a few bucks. And it's funny actually because Blues Brothers, there's that famous scene in Blues Brothers where they walk in and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're the good old boys," and they like play that show at the country bar. And
Right.
well, when I was like probably 18 or 19, Steve Miller was playing a show in Sun Valley, Idaho, and I was playing in town that same day, and my friends and I had been joking like, "Oh, you should just go like see if you can sneak in and open the show for him." Well, I was driving out of town and I saw the venue and it was like this little club, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go check it out. So I went over there with my guitar and I went to the front door and the front door was locked. The people were lined up. So then I went to the back door and the back door was unlocked. So I walked in and this lady was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, just ignored her. I was just like, I'm just gonna, what would somebody do that was supposed to be here? So I just ignored her and I like, they had the red velvet rope. I took the velvet rope off and I walked up the stairs and she's like, "Well, he obviously knows where he's going." And I went upstairs and there was all these people and they were like, uh, "What are you doing here?" And the sound guy kind of recognized me from around town. And I was like, oh, I'm just checking it out. And he said, oh, are you opening? And I said, uh, sure, you know. And he goes, hold on, let me check on something. So I was like, man, I was like, I'm gonna get kicked out. And then next thing you know, he comes up and he says, all right, you know, you got to be done by 8:30 or whatever time, 9 o'clock or whatever. And I was like, okay. I opened for Steve Miller.
No way.
When I got off the stage, he grabbed me and he goes, hey, kid, you know you're not getting paid for this, right?
Oh my God. That's hilarious, man. That's a great story, dude. That's what I'm talking about though. That's like the spirit of like a musician that's just like so fucking admirable. So much caution to the wind. They don't really care about certain things that regular people do. And like that is what is so appealing to like that's what's so honestly relatable to anybody. Because even people that aren't like living that way, they I guess internally wish they could. So even when people sing about living that way, they still empathize with it or they still relate to it. They still go, like I get that free spirit. At one point in my life, maybe I had that free spirit, maybe when I was
Right.
a teenager or whatever. And maybe this song gives me nostalgia about that time or whatever. So you don't have to be currently living maybe necessarily a musician's preferred way of life, but like you can still relate to it, which is why it's so great. That's why your music's awesome, man.
No, thank you, man. Yeah, it's true, man. Like, yeah, I was sitting talking to a buddy of mine the other day that I grew up with, and you know, he's got a couple kids and wife, and we were sitting in his kitchen, and he's like, man, he's like, we were just talking about growing up together and stuff, and he's like, man, he's like, sometimes I'm like envious of you, man. Like, you just like kind of just live this free spirit life, you know, you do all this stuff, you go all these places. I was like, yeah, but I was like, but also like you got like kids and stuff. Like, I'm like, I got my guitar, man. Like,
Yeah.
what I got, bro.
No, man, I agree. And I think you do a good job of portraying that, but like in a very unique Ethan Tucker style, man. Like one of your one of my favorite songs from yours is Coming Home because I mean I'm sure you get that a lot, but just the melody is obviously very smooth and very like beautiful and likable, and the harmonica added to it is incredible. But I heard even in your acoustic EP where you do like a little like you talk about the song ahead of time and you say this is about like me being on the road all the time and then like never really getting to be in my own bed. And I think when you preface a song with that is it's actually awesome because I think if you just heard the song, you'd be like, this song's great. But because you hear it, it's actually kind of like it's not sad, but it's also like, whoa, like that. He made the journey of a musician real. He just made it super real before the song even starts. And it makes the song more powerful just by you even like acknowledging that before the song starts. I don't know if
Yeah,
that was what you're trying to do, but it for sure does. It's a great fucking song, man.
thank you. You know that song, I wrote that song originally. I wrote it about my own experience, but I wrote that song originally for another like reggae, like a very, very well-known reggae band in the scene. And I wrote it for them because they were doing an acoustic type of album and they were looking for some new songs. And so I wrote that for with them in mind. It was from my own experience, but I wrote this. I wasn't going to originally put it on any of my own albums. I was going to give it to this other band, and they ended up not using it. So I just put it on my album.
Damn, that's so crazy, dude. That's so I love when I hear stories like that. There's a story like that about what was it? Oh, you know what? It was Springsteen. He wrote what's it called? What's that song called? Because the Night by I forgot who's the female singer, Patti Smith. That's like
Okay.
her most famous song. Like literally, it's a super good song. It's because the night belongs to lovers. It's a huge song in the 80s. It has like a crazy like uh build up to it. It's incredible. Well, like the whole time I didn't find out till like I don't know, like a couple of years ago. That was a Springsteen throwaway that he just gave it to her. That he was like, "Here, you can, your career's just getting started. I like you. You can use this." And
Wow.
it's literally her biggest song. It's freaking crazy. So sometimes you never know when like when a song that someone else may not think is the best, it actually to so many other people it really is. Like,
Uh,
because
Well,
man,
I was thankful. I was thankful they didn't use that song because when the pandemic hit and I was like, what am I gonna do for money? You know, uh, coincidentally, right around that same time, there was like two movies and a TV show. I'm sorry, dude. My text messages keep coming through my computer. I don't know
no,
why, and
no worries.
I don't know how to stop it. Um, but yeah. So, but I like two movies and a TV show, or vice versa, two TV shows and a movie. I can't remember. that, but they used that coming home. They used it on their soundtracks, and like it literally like helped me get through that pandemic. Like that's like part of my way of surviving. And I was like, man, I'm so glad that that song get used by somebody else.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. I think another example of like of the life of a musician, how much different it is than like the fan man is hearing Reno. You know, Reno is a phenomenal song, man. I the melody is incredible. And then the lyrics are just so relatable as well too. I saw your YouTube video where you're playing in that really cool scenic area and you're talking about, you know, what the song's about. And do me a favor, tell listeners what that song is about. I love that song, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that song is very special to me. That song Reno is I mean, that song gives me goosebumps still because I mean it's that's like cutting open my shell and opening up to everyone, you know, and it's yeah, so basically how it came about, I was on tour. I was actually with G Love. We were on tour and we were in Reno and we'd gone out late and we were, you know, doing all the crazy things in Reno and I got back to my hotel so late that they didn't think I was kind of be coming. So they just like gave up my room reservation. So I got there and I didn't have a hotel room. So I was waiting for them to rebook the room and I was just sitting in this casino lobby and I was watching people and this one older lady caught my eye and she was just sitting at the slot machine. You know how people do, just zoned out for a while. And I was like, man, I was like, I wonder if this lady's got like a problem. You know, I was like, it's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, what is she doing here? Because she was like, she was not a young woman. She was definitely vintage, that's for sure. And I just was like, man. And then I remember the cocktail waitress walked up right then. And she was like, oh, do you want a drink? And I was like, yeah. And grabbed a drink and started drinking. I was like, you know, I was like, what am I judging this lady for? I'm over here. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm still tying one on.
Yeah.
And in the morning when we got up, we had to go play a show in Sacramento, and there was the storm rolling in, and where my hotel room was, it was like right, I could see the airport and the runway to the airport, and I saw these airplanes coming in, and the wind from the storm was just making these airplanes go all over the runway, and I had my guitar and I started that little lick, and I was just like, you know, these winds came howling in from Tahoe like they own the place. And that's where the song came from. Just that whole thing, that whole idea of, you know, we all have something. Our we all have our vices, our quirks, our habits, whatever it is. And that, you know, I always joke at my shows that might be ice cream, that might be drinking and gambling in Reno, or that might be ice cream after you brush your teeth. But everybody's got something, and we really do. We all have something like that, and that's what that song really is about. Is just like those things that we have, and kind of it's being a part of ourselves, but still being raw and true to ourselves, who we are. Like knowing yourself for the good and for the bad. You know.
Yeah, man, you know, I didn't even actually get tuned in that song until it popped up in my Spotify when I was already following you already, and I remember when it came out, and I was like, oh, cool, like a new release, and dude, I had it on repeat for like a week, man, and like it was one of those things where like sometimes a song, the lyrics catch my attention pretty quickly, and then sometimes it's just the melody that catches it pretty quickly, and then for this one, the melody caught my ear pretty quickly. For like the first day, I was like, oh man, I love the way it sounds. And then
Mm-hmm.
the next day, I was into the lyrics more, and I was like, man, this song is just fucking great, man. And that's what's crazy about your music, man, is I feel like it's so your lyrics are just not um they're how do I put this? How do I put this? I feel like they're just so perfectly relatable. Does that make any sense? Like sometimes lyrics can be so obscure and they can be so kind of advanced in a kind of an annoying way where like, all right, I gotta look up what this guy was referencing here. It turns out he's talking about something that happened in the medieval times and fucking 1960. You know, and you're just like, all right, I get the story now they're trying to tell. But like I like when people are talking about life, when they're talking about, you know, their problems in life. You know, like I grew up, I was a huge Kid Cudi fan, you know,
Mm-hmm.
huge Springsteen fan, Metallica, and those lyrics to me were just very like almost to the point and like kind of like this is what I'm thinking about or whatever. This is a story I'm trying to tell you.
And not that I don't appreciate the other ones, I just appreciate that a little bit more.
Uh,
Yours has like a poetry effect to it, if that makes any sense.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, that's special. Yeah. I mean, that song means a lot to me too. And I think all my songs really, I none of my songs come from a place of anywhere but sincerity. I don't write songs just for the sake of writing them. They all mean something to me.
Right. Yeah. And that's my point. I feel like I can feel that through your songwriting. And that's why it's like, all right, there's no throwaway. Like every song it has a heartbeat to it. I think that's the coolest thing, man. When you made talking about the process of making your first album, like how much work went into doing that, man. Like how much were you touring before that, before you finally got a record deal? Like how did that all go down?
Yeah. So yeah, I had released self-released stuff before. I'd done like couple things I'd put out. So I started doing like stuff in high school. I was making recordings and trying to sell them at school and stuff. Um and I had made a couple like bedroom albums, and then when I was younger, I was telling you how I snuck into the Steve Miller show. Well, I also used to like sneak into like Michael Franti shows all the time and like I'd be like, dude, you gotta listen to my music. You gotta listen to my music. And I would like sneak backstage and I would, just I hounded that dude. It was, and finally I was like, bro, can we just listen to one song, man? And I promise I'll leave you alone if you don't like it. And he was like, okay. And he listened to it after I'd snuck in with catering to this event, and he was like, oh, that's pretty good. And we started jamming a little bit. And then I had an opportunity not long later, by hounding somebody else, I was able to open for him. So I opened for him, and I didn't really get to talk to him a little bit, said hi, but he said, hey, I'm playing a show near Seattle. You should come. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. So I went to the show in Seattle, got backstage, showed him this song called Cool Kids. And I wrote that song. I had written it before, and I showed it to him backstage, and he loved it. And he was like, "Oh my gosh!" I think I have a video somewhere of him like the first time he heard it. My cousin was recording it when we were backstage, and he was like, "Dude, that's a hit! That's a hit! We got to record this. We got to record this song." So we went to he called. We set it up. I went to a studio in San Francisco. We recorded it, and months and months went by, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to put it on an album. And I had recorded other songs, like kind of piecing this thing together, just, working. I was doing drywall at that time. And I was like, just saving up enough money every time I could to go to the studio. And I was getting all these recordings together, and it just, nothing sounded cohesive. I was spending a lot of money, but nothing sounded like, it just wasn't like finished. And everything was just like, I don't know. And then there was one day I remember I was laying in bed, and I get this text from Michael, and he says, he's like, hey man, I'm sitting here with the president of Capitol Records. I just showed him Cool Kids, and he wants to talk to you. And I was being cocky, and I was like, well, what a coincidence. I want to talk to him too. Then Michael calls me and puts me on the phone with this guy, and he says, hey, and we talked for a little while. He goes, well, I think this was like a Thursday or a Friday. And he was like, hey, he's like, you want to, can you be here on Monday? I was like, yeah, I guess. So, we set up a meeting for that Monday. I flew down on Sunday. They flew me down to LA. And I remember I got to the hotel. They put me up in this hotel right across the street from Capitol Records. And I get to the hotel, and I go to check in, and I was broke. I had like, I don't even know, dude. I think I had like $7 in my bank account, and I went to go check into the hotel, and they're like, okay, we need a credit card for incidentals. And I was like, I don't have a credit card, And they were like, okay, well, debit card will work. And so I gave them my debit card, and I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, so we're gonna hold $150 on there. So I like overdrafted my account,
Yeah.
So then the next day I had this meeting with Capitol Records. But what I had in my wallet too, which I still keep to this day, was this. This is this dollar bill. This was the last dollar that I had to my name when I signed that record deal.
Wow.
And I still keep it in my wallet. You see, it's all beat up.
Yeah.
I just remind myself that I'm never going to spend my last dollar ever again. You can be down to your last dollar and your life can change, you know?
Wow, that's so cool, man.
And so yeah, so I got this record deal, and I thought, man, everything's set, everything's golden. You know, they're writing me a check for a number that I've never seen on a piece of paper that's coming my way before. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I've made it. You know, I don't have to worry about anything. And you know, so I start working with the record label, and coincidentally at the same time there was another major artist. It was like Katy Perry was putting out an album at that time, and so like everything I was doing was just getting like pushed under the rug because it was like almost like, you know, I'm the new guy and I'm trying to get, you know, and she's got this album coming out, so I was like competing with that. Um and then months and months later, I started going on tour, and I was touring all the time, and that was what was great. I was touring. I opened for Jimmy Cliff. I opened for uh, who else that year? I don't know. I did all kind. My life changed. I was always gone. I was always on tour. I was next thing I know, I'm hanging out. I hung out. I was, you know, I'm at parties and I'm sitting next to Kid Cudi. You know what I mean? Like sitting on the couch talking to him. You know, like
Yeah.
hanging out with like, you know, like just everything was just things were wild. You know, and like so I thought this is my life now, and then I get this call from my lawyer, and he's like, so he calls me and says, yeah, your guy from Capitol left. He's moving to a different company. And I was like, what? So they like, yeah, so they're dropping all of his projects. So I was like, oh no. And I was like, but the good thing was I was able to keep my advance without having to pay it back because I didn't release anything on the record label. So here I was sitting with like a fat stack of cash, and but I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. So started talking with my manager, and I was like, hey, do you think we could get in touch with Mario Caldado, who did like Jack Johnson? He did like Beck. So he did like several Jack Johnson records. He did like Beck, 2 turntables and a microphone. Like he did that Odelay record. Did like some John Butler stuff. He did Beastie Boys, obviously, is a big one, you know. Mario C likes to keep it clean, you know. And so we had him mix Cool Kids, and it sounded great. So I was like, yeah, why don't we just see if we can do the record with him? And I was able to, I had the money, so I just paid for it myself out of the money that I got from the record label, and made the album Misunderstood. And you know, it just came together perfectly. And you know, Mario and I've worked with Mario ever since. He still mixes almost all my stuff. If I don't record it with him, I usually have him mix it most of the time. So yeah, that's kind of how Misunderstood album kind of came about, was just through a series of random events, major fortune, and then, you know, just it was like highs and lows, like just getting this airplane take off, you know. So
Yeah.
we're gonna, yeah.
That's crazy, man. And it's funny because you know, you mentioned the story of you like hounding Michael Franti and shit, and then like Crazy Tonight is like literally one of my favorite songs on the album with
Yeah.
you and him. And it's what a cool story, man, to be able to like, you know, follow these people and just be like like basically the, you know, the fucking Rudy of the music scene, you know, like just give me a shot. And then now you're with Notre Dame, you know, now they're playing with it. It's so
Yeah.
cool, man. I love to hear that story, man.
Yeah, no, it's been an adventure, man. It's still going, you know. Wait till you hear the new album. The new album that's coming out is it's almost done, and it's sounding pretty good.
Oh, dude, I can't wait, man. If it's any, I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan of your music. Cool Kids was actually the first one I actually heard. My old man saw you first. He saw you. Um, I think yes, Jeremy Loops. He saw you open for Jeremy Loops, and I think in like San Diego. Um,
Okay,
and he sent me your work that night, and he was like, "God, check this guy out, man. He's like, you're gonna love it." And my old man's kind of like a complex guy in the sense of like I feel like he has so many different like parts of him that make him like so unique. Like he's a kid from East LA. He grew up to be a police officer, but like if you met him, you would never think he's just like some cliche of a dude who's just like that. Like he just like I don't know. He's so likable by so many different people, and he knows how to be around every different person and never give off that persona.
right.
And musically is where like he shines in that specifically, where like he fucking like when he knows something's good, he's just into it. He's like, oh fuck, this is like he takes it and runs with it. and he would play Cool Kids Around the House, just like you mentioned with your mom in the morning. He was playing that for me like all the time, like Saturday, Sunday morning, playing it up, and we'd play it all day. And then he loved playing High Time. High Time's like his favorite one. Like he just fucking he starts skipping and shit. You're like, dude, he
So
fucking loves it. I swear, man. But yeah, man, that it's really great to have a record like that that shines in so many different levels. I feel like there's there's so many songs that like layer into different genres in that album, which I think is great. Like even in Cool Kids, like how you mentioned how I like Bob Marley, but I like Snoop Dogg too, and I think that's cool because that's kind of like a good um description of the album. The album has a lot of different flavor on it, and I think that shines through very apparently. And now that you're talking about your past and how you grew up, it all makes a lot of sense.
yeah, exactly. I never knew genre coming up, and I that's one thing I struggle with too with the record labels. Like I I was on the record label, and they every question. Well, so what's your genre? What's your every time I'd have a meeting, and I'd be like, I don't know. And that was not. I'll tell you what. If you're trying to live in the major label world, that is not the answer that you want to give to the question. What is your genre? They want to know definite what box do you fit in.
Yeah.
I just have never been that guy, and so by some standards, like it's just like it could be viewed as like not taking advantage of opportunities, but at the same time, I don't see it that way. I'm like, you know what? I believe in what I do. I love the music that I make, and I know I love good music. So I feel like, people seem to gravitate to it. So I'm going to keep making it, and it might be a slower climb, but I feel like the people that come to my shows, like you're talking about your dad or whatever, like people who love my music have loved it for a long time, and their kids tend to love it. And it's something I feel like is going to be generational. This is what I said when I was on the record label, and I'd meet with the president of Capitol Records, and the kid with bare feet and negative money in his bank account. I was like, I want to make records. They asked me like, what's your goal in music? I said, I want to make records that people want to show their grandkids. I want to make records that my grandkids are like, dude, my grandpa was a badass. You know what I mean? That's what I want to do. I don't need to be the flavor of the summer. I don't need to have the number one hit of the summer. I mean, as much as that would be cool, I'm not saying I don't want that, but that's not what I'm going for. What I'm going for is, to be an artist that people love for years and generations to come.
Yeah, dude, that's that's the most perfectly like said thing about I think an artist, putting it that way. I think I've interviewed a lot of comedians. They echo the same sentiment, where they're like, I'm not trying to be a mainstream comic. I don't want to be, yeah, and they always preface it with like, no offense, but they're like saying, I'm not trying to be like, Kevin Hart or Gabriel Iglesias or like, I was like, those guys are great, but they're great because they're them. He's like, I can't try to be like them. I have to be what is good to me, and if it happens to go mainstream, then whatever. But like, that's not my goal. My goal has to be pure to the art. And I think that's the only way you can actually do art. Especially music. I feel like again, like I think you could fake the funk, and I think some people can buy that shit. But I think when you're honest, that's when you get the true fans. That really can, like I said earlier, can like feel the heartbeat through the music,
Right.
and that's fucking way more powerful. That's way
Exactly.
better.
And that's the people I want at my shows too. Like I want people that are appreciating it for the music. And one thing that I feel good about, like of all the things that I've done in my career and in my life so far, sometimes like not having like commercial successes as often or as big as some artists. When I go to like a music festival and I'm like backstage at these festivals and stuff, like everybody shows love, Like I remember one time I was at a festival, and Be Real from Cypress Hill was standing in front of me, and he was watching Slightly Stupid, and I just tapped him on the shoulder, and he like kind of just ignored it. So I tapped him on the shoulder again. He turned around with this mean look on his face, and then he was like, "Oh, Ethan, what's up, man?" And I was like, "I didn't even know you knew who I was, dude." Like, you know what I mean? Like, but like, I love it because, like, yeah, I go places and I do things, and I meet people that I look up to, and they're like, "Dude, I love what you're doing." Like like we sit and talk about music. Like people that I truly respect show me love. And so I feel good about that. You know what I mean? Like where when I can walk into a room and, sit with someone that I have so much respect and admiration for, and they're like vibing with me, you know what I mean? And like showing me love, like that's my thing, like I don't need, you know, I don't need to have my face all over TV all the time to feel good about myself. Like I'm like, I can walk into a room with like straight up legends and just kick it, and I
Yeah,
love it. That's my vibe,
that's the
like
best, man. I love it. How long you been working on this last record?
way too long, man. Way too long. Yeah, to ask my manager about that one. See, I love I'm a perfectionist, and the thing is, I spent so much money and so much time on the first on Misunderstood, and I didn't want to follow it up with something that was not going to that I didn't feel just as good about. Because Misunderstood, when it came out, and to this day, I can put on any song on Misunderstood, and I'm like, dude, yes, I like this. And I would go do these sessions, and I would pay a lot of money with these producers and these different people over the years. So it's been, so I started working on this album in 2018, and over these years, I would go in and I spent I'm still paying off credit cards from some of these sessions. And I would go in and I would record with these people that have done great albums with great people, and they're great producers, and I would listen to the music and spend tens of thousands of dollars working with these people. And I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't like it. I don't feel it. I don't like it. And then I would record something at home, and I'd be like, oh, this is the vibe, but this isn't quite it. And then where it kind of started to change around was so my manager, where he lived in LA, he lived next door to this gentleman that is a music producer. His name's Drew DeCaro. And they didn't know each other at the time, but we didn't even know they both did music. But somehow they ended up in a conversation. They were taking out their garbage or something, and they started talking. And my manager John says, "Hey, I manage artists," and Drew's like, "Hey, I'm a producer and an artist myself." And he worked with like Miguel, did a lot. So if you ever watch like Miguel's Tiny Desk, like Drew is the dude playing guitar on that.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, "Hey, I got this song that I'm looking for somebody to sing it." I ended up doing that. That was Forces. I did that song with Drew, and then started working with him on some other things, and we came up with some great stuff. And I was like, man, everything that I did with Drew sounded amazing. So I was like, I want to work with him. But I was like, I don't have the budget to do all this at once. So I was just kind of picking away at these recordings. And then when the pandemic hit, everything kind of slowed down, and I was just kind of living the family life at home. And I had a girlfriend at that time, and we were just I was just focusing on that. And I wasn't really like diving into my music. I kind of lost myself for a while there. And an old friend of mine that I've been friends with for years and years and years, he called me one day out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, are you still in Olympia?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in Olympia." He goes, "Hey man, I'm coming through. I'm on a road trip." This was 2020, like right in the middle of everything. And he goes, "Hey, I'm coming through on a road trip. I'd love to talk to you." And so I was like, "Sure." So we met up, and he's like, "Hey man, like what's holding you back from putting out a record? It's been a long time." And I was like, "Honestly, dude, I know exactly what I want to make. I know the record I want to make. I know who I want to make it with, but I can't afford it. I'm just trying to get the money together to do it." And I've been spinning my wheels. I've spent so much of my own money and so much of like accrued some debt to do this, and nothing's turned out right. And he was like, "Look, man," he goes, "just let me know what you need." And I was like, "Dude, I don't like to do that." And he was like, "Bro, I don't think you understand the situation, man. Just like, I got you. Like, you just tell me what you need and we'll do it." And I was like, "Well, it's going to be, I'll figure it out and stuff." And he was like, "Bro, just trust me." So we got on a phone call and figured out some budget stuff, and I was able to get the funding that I needed to do. And so I started going in with Drew and started going in with Mario again. And we put a bunch of the stuff together. And now we pretty much have everything done, except I'm about to go back in and do the very, very last song for the album, just about here in a couple weeks, here in Seattle. Um, and then the record's going to be done. But yeah, it was just this whole process of getting things together. But it's taken me. I started this process in 2018, and I probably recorded every song on here at least 2 or 3 times. And now I finally feel like, okay, it's ready. So later this year, we're gonna be putting the album out, and it's gonna be called Phoenix, and I'm super excited about it. I got some new singles coming out. I got a new single coming out with my boy Sean the Shaman, and that one we did with Drew DeCaro and Mario Caldado together, which was a dream of mine. I was like, dude, why don't we put like my two favorite producers together? And this track is so sick. It is so good. It is so good. It is so good. And we're getting ready to put that out. And Sean's verse, and Sean kind of saved my soul, man, with music too, man. Because during that, I met him right before the pandemic, and we just he was doing a show, and I was on this tip at that time. I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna say no to anything. Like anytime somebody invites me to go somewhere, and because I was becoming a recluse, I had this girlfriend at the time that was just I don't know what was going on, but not good. And I was just in this vacuum of like, just I wasn't being myself. I wasn't feeling like myself. And I just was so sucked into this little life that I had found myself in that I wasn't really doing anything. So I was like, I'm going to just go do random things. So I ended up going to this concert that I would have normally not gone to, and I met my friend Sean the Shaman, Sean Lewis, and we just hit it off immediately and started talking on the phone all the time. And he started like lighting this fire again for, music, and like reminding me like who I am, like reminding me like, dude, you're here for a purpose that's like bigger than, that's why I call him Sean the Shaman, man. He's like, dude, this is bigger than you, it's bigger than me. And so we just got this fire lit up, and so we still call each other all the time, and like make sure, what are you doing today? How was your day today? What did you do today for yourself? What did you do for your soul? What did you do for music? What did you do for someone else? We created this brotherhood, built each other up, and we started writing these songs together. We did a song for the Sublime tribute album, and here we find ourselves getting ready to release this single, Bad Man. It's going to be coming out very soon. I'm just finishing the album artwork right now. That's the only thing holding it up right now. We're just finishing the album art for the Bad Man, and then put that out, and ASAP. I don't have a date for it because I don't have the artwork done, but very, very soon.
Damn, dude, that's a great story, man. I feel like I feel like if you put your best self out there for whatever project you put on, and as soon as you get a little bit down, maybe not on yourself, but just kind of like hit the gas or brakes a little bit and start to feel like, poor me a little bit, that's when someone always comes in. It's like a movie, and they're just like, and they light that fire back under you. It's almost like Good Will Hunting, yeah, when the guy's like, you're fucking, like, the fuck you doing here? Like, you're fucking, it's an insult to be around us. Like, you have this gift, like, and I'm telling you basically because I love you. Like, this is fucking what you should be doing. And I love that though. I think that's supposed to be part of the story. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think like Kobe touched on it too when he's talking about his going away speech, where he's like, all the championships, all the stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's like, but the journey was just getting up every day and attacking the dream. He's like, that's actually the dream.
Yeah.
That's actually what was my favorite part the whole time. Not even the results really. It was just looking
Right.
back at it. That's what it was. So if you can know that during the process of whatever the hell you're doing,
Exactly.
you'll always be happy as fuck. You'll always have a purpose every day. And that's so cool, man. That's so cool. You have a friend like that who supported you during that time to get you where you're at, man. I can't wait for the album.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. And on that same tip too of like reminding yourself, like, so I do this thing. I work with this nonprofit organization called the Bridge Music Project, and what we do is we go into like basically like high security juvenile correction facilities, like prison, basically for youth. And we also have community workshops that are for youth outside of that. But we deal with a lot of kids who deal with foster care, homelessness, things like that. And we do a music mentorship program where we teach songwriting courses, and we record these kids professionally, even in the prisons. We go into the prisons and we bring like professional recording gear. And in fact, we've gotten a couple of these institutions to actually install studios in the facilities.
Wow.
And where we record these kids and make music with them, and it's helped me to remember, like, all these things I tell these kids where I'm like, dude, you got to get up and you got to find something to drive yourself. It's like reminding me, they're like, okay, like I got to, I have to take my own medicine, like you got to get up every day and like think of something. Cause I was telling you before, I was really, really down. I was really down. I was in a bad spot, like inside of myself, and which usually I'm such a positive person and people always know me as the laughing, funny, like positive guy, but I was really not like myself. And when I was getting out of this relationship and I was like making big changes in my life, I went to California to a friend's house. He said, dude, you need to come down here and just stay for a while. So I went down with like just a one-way ticket to stay. And I just like little things, like my friend, the Hoser is his name. He's a well-known dude in the scene,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, bro, he's like little, because I was down, dude. I was pitiful for a minute. And I was like, he's like, dude, just get up every day and make your bed. And I just started doing that every day, getting up and making my bed, and just like that. And like starting just getting into these routines of like, just doing something for myself every day. Cause like with COVID, like I wasn't playing a lot of concerts. I was like, I kind of lost myself because I had built myself into all these things outside of myself and kind of lost myself inside of myself,
Yeah.
So I started like doing these little things to remind myself of who I am and all these things, like, and then I started writing again and started touring again, started listening to music again. Like there was a time where I was just like, driving around in my car with no music, just raw dogging the day. No music, dude. Like I don't get it, and now, but I started listening to music again and like loving it. And then, yeah, like when I started working with the bridge music and seeing these kids and seeing how music's affecting their life. These kids are in prison, dude. And they're like stoked writing songs, and they're just like, and I'm like, we're writing a song in a week and recording it. And I'm like, man, I have been working on this album for 8 years, this 10 years. And like, and I'm telling you, like, we got to finish this song by Friday. I'm like, what? So I like take some of my own medicine. It's like, and it really motivated me. All these things together, meeting people like Sean and my different friends that kind of rallied around me to kind of, that's the thing about having a community, you know what I mean? And like just building each other up and like being on the road with people like the Hyrie and those type of people, those groups, like, and finding like that camaraderie with these people to help us all bring each other up to like creating things. Like I love seeing my friends do creative things. I love, seeing all their Instagram posts, whatever, like they're all doing creative things. So I find with myself that I'm always reminding myself like, okay, what am I going to do today? I get up in the morning, I'm going to do something to creative, just do something. If I need to mess with a beat for a little while, check my email, read a book, just do something, get your mind motivated. And it's just become like this whole thing, like that I've been able to cut out so many things in my life that were holding me back, to where like I feel like my creativity and the journey I'm on right now, like it's on, dude. It's on.
Yeah. That's so relatable, man. I think everyone's supposed to lose their way a little bit, and I think everyone's supposed to fill themselves a little bit with a little bit of doubt, especially when you get such success, early on. It doesn't have to be with music, but anything. Sometimes the idea of building off of it can be scary. And it's not because of other people's expectations, it's because of your expectations of yourself. It's because you put that much pressure on yourself. And um, I think it's when that pendulum swings back, and again, and the music is no longer just noise. Now it's back to being fucking hitting your soul again, and the colors are brighter and everything's fucking different. Like in that you have a purpose, and even fucking getting up and making your bed makes you excited. Like that is when you're on a whole fucking other level. Like
Yeah.
if that can get you ready for the day, you're unstoppable, man. Like it doesn't matter what you choose to do at that point. You can be a finance dude, you can be fucking music, you can be an athlete, whatever. Like that little start, and then keeping that energy throughout the day, and then it being consistent after a couple days and a week and then a month, and then holy shit, man, like where you end up is just crazy. So,
Yeah.
I think everything happened to you for a reason, man. But it's thank God we got here, man. The journey has been sweet, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the album's called Phoenix, like it's really is like it's a like coming from sometimes you got to burn down to the ashes to bring yourself back up, because you got to burn away. Sometimes you got to burn those demons out of your life. And whether that's people or whether that's habits, whether that's, you know, uh, anything, if anything's holding you back, you got to burn it out of your life, and you got to recognize the things that are holding you back. And that sometimes that they come from inside of yourself. It's not just, you can blame other people all you want, but you got to see those things inside yourself. What inside of yourself is allowing you to hold on to these things that are holding you back from greatness? Because we all know that we have these great things. Everybody, even when you feel down on yourself, you have something about yourself that you like about yourself. You're like, I am pretty good at this thing or whatever. But sometimes it's hard to say it to people. But you find those little things and find a way to fuel that fire instead of fueling the fire of, whether it's, hatred for something, or, you put your energy into, it's like that old saying, there's two wolves inside of you. Which one are you going to feed? You were going to feed the positive or feed the negative.
Yeah, man, that's so damn true, dude. Man, you hit the nail. That's the perfect way to end the pod right there, dude. That was awesome, man. Dude, thanks so much for joining me, man. I had a blast. Like I said, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a couple of years now, and like I said, when I started this, I mean, it was just it was just my friends, and most episodes are just solo, just me talking shit to nobody.
Cool.
But I mean, where it's gone to now, and the people I've been able to speak to now, man, it's a huge blessing every episode. So,
Dude, thank you for having me, man. I'll keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome. And yeah, thanks for inviting me on, man. And it's super cool what you're doing, man.
thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, man. Tell everyone where they can find you, their websites, music, all that stuff, so they can stay tuned for more Ethan Tucker, man.
Yeah, so my website, ethantuckermusic.com. That's where you can find my tour dates. That's where you can find what's going on there. Tucker Music on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter or X, all that. Find me on Facebook, Ethan Tucker or Tucker Music. Spotify, however you listen to music, Apple Music. I have some new stuff. So there's some stuff coming on a streaming. It's technically not out yet, so I can't really talk about it. But if you're watching Netflix, keep the ear out for some Ethan Tucker music on there, on some of these new shows coming out. And keep an eye out for the single Bad Man, Sean the Shaman. He's got new music out right now, too. So check him out. Get warmed up for this Bad Man coming out. And then the album Phoenix coming later in the year.
Awesome, man. Can't wait for that album, dude. And then the tour that comes after that. I'll definitely be at one of the shows.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah, brother. This has been Alternate Take. We'll see you guys later. Peace.